Charlie Brown's friend, Franklin, is having a moment, and it's long overdue.
The classic comic strip character is finally getting his seat at the table.
The Peanuts gang's first black character will debut in a starting role in Snoopy Presents Welcome Home, Franklin.
Snoopy Presents Welcome Home, Franklin will premiere this Friday.
The newest Peanuts special from Apple TV Plus is Welcome Home, Franklin, an origin story for the first black character in Peanuts. Now, I was already planning to do this video as a follow-up to my last one, where I talked about more times adults spoke in Peanuts cartoons.
Dr. Melendez to emergency. Dr. Melendez to emergency.
Heavy rains have caused flash flooding in the backcountry.
Miss Polly and her poodles.
One of the specials I talked about was the not-so-classic 1994 special, You're in the Superbowl, Charlie Brown, or as Peanuts fans everywhere call it, YITS.
The fur really flies as the cats make a mad dash for Wisniewski.
And I hinted at the one thing that keeps YITS from being completely forgettable.
Mr. Franklin Armstrong.
How was I to know that it was suddenly about to become very relevant?
I'm Franklin Armstrong. My name is Charlie Brown.
Because up until a few weeks ago, that was just an obscure factoid known only to cynical adults who watch cartoons. Before we get into it, I want to congratulate the winners of the Cynical Adult Watches Cartoons Peanuts giveaway. I sent prizes to Electric Headspace, Chris, Jekka, and Gregory Ohanessian. I have more stuff from that estate sale, so be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos and your chance to win Peanut stuff. Now, as you may have guessed, in this video we'll be getting into issues of race, because it's impossible to talk about Franklin without that. As a person of no color to speak of, I've made every attempt to be respectful and to keep this story centered around black people and black voices. So please watch the video and let me know in the comments what you think. Famous last words. So, while it's been nice seeing so many classic Peanut specials coming to Apple TV Plus, remastered and looking better than ever, somehow I doubt that YITS is going to get that treatment. After its one airing in 1994, its only release was a VHS tape that was only sold at Shell stations. I have a problem. Being a commercial for big football, right down to having the kids wear actual team logos, means there's probably a complicated copyright situation that both the NFL and Peanuts Worldwide have decided is just not worth their time. Plus, it's repetitive as hell. The punt, pass, and kick contest fills fully 6 minutes of this 24-minute special. And one of the ways they fill that time is by having the announcer introduce each of the 8 contestants.
Our first contestant is Miss Lucille Van Pelt, Mr. Charles Brown, Mr. Pig Penn, Miss Patricia Reichart.
You knew that was Peppermint Patty's last name, right? And just dropped in there like it's nothing.
Miss Marcy Johnson.
And
Mr. Franklin Armstrong.
Neither of those characters ever had last names in the strip. Marcy's doesn't seem to have any significance that I could find. There was a Donna Johnson, who you may have heard of, who played a part in Schultz's early life. But I couldn't find anything to suggest that this was a reference to her. Besides, she already inspired a different one of Chuck's love interests.
She nibbles on her pencil. She is human.
But Franklin Armstrong is named for Rob Armstrong, cartoonist of the comic strip Jumpstart.
Charles Schultz is the reason I'm a cartoonist. Plain and simple.
Armstrong was 6 when Franklin was introduced.
I was always opening the newspaper to read about Snoopy, Charlie Brown, but when I saw this little boy who was like me, I realized that I could achieve this. And my mother realized I could achieve this.
Jumpstart, which finds humor in the experiences of a middle-class black family, is currently syndicated in over 300 newspapers. and is being developed as a live-action sitcom. Armstrong was just 26 when he sold Jumpstart.
I signed my deal in 1989. It was with the same syndicate that distributed Peanuts. And I sent him a strip that mentioned Snoopy in it.
Later, Schultz invited Armstrong to visit him in his studio.
He sent me an original Peanuts. It's this big. I was at his house. In his house, Jumpstart, my comic, is framed near the fireplace, near his chair, and there are no other cartoons. There's family photo. There's no other cartoons there. Just Jumpstart, right?
Schultz was a big supporter of younger cartoonists. In addition to Armstrong, he was a mentor to cartoonists like Kathy Guisewite of Kathy, Lynn Johnston of The Very Canadian, For Better or For Worse, and Patrick McDonnell of Mutts. Schultz once described Mutts as exactly what a comic strip should be, and actually referenced Mutts in a 1999 Peanuts strip. And he's not wrong. Mutts is great.
He was truly a friend and support. Always gave me good advice.
For Armstrong, Schultz emphasized what's important.
You follow your heart, because you have what Peanuts has, great characters.
And when it came time to give Franklin a last name, Schultz found a way to return the shout-out.
I thought his last name was Franklin, to be honest with you. He said, no, that's his first name. He called me and said, I realized that Franklin has no last name. How would you feel if I gave him your last name? I'm still choking back tears. Yeah. I was blown away.
Just like with Marcy's name, Franklin's last name was never mentioned in the strip. But I'm considering it canon for the simple reason that Schultz himself chose that name, and his widow, Jean Schultz, gave her approval.
Jeannie Schultz, his widow, walks up to me after I finished and said, this changes everything. I don't know how much she contributed to this becoming a big deal, but people did begin to hear about Franklin being Franklin Armstrong.
In the Peanuts movie, they changed Marcy's last name to Carlin, if you're paying attention. But they've made the wise decision to keep Franklin's last name for this new special.
Hi there. I'm Franklin Armstrong.
Franklin exists thanks to a Los Angeles school teacher named Harriet Glickman, who sent Charles Schultz a letter in 1968.
She was an ordinary woman witnessing this world go through one of the most chaotic periods of its existence, the death of Dr. King, the separation, the rage, and she just felt, I have an idea and I want to share it with the creator of Peanuts. And if he can add a black character to that platform, I bet he can calm the waters a little bit. He said, you know what? I think it's a noble cause, but I'm just going to come off condescending to black people if I do that.
Nevertheless, she persisted. She kept sending letters.
She kept pressing. He thought better of it and said, you know what? I'll do it.
On July 29th, 1968, Sally threw Charlie Brown's beach ball into the water. On July 31st, it was rescued. Over the next two strips, Charlie Brown and Franklin hung out and compared dads, talked about baseball, and built a sandcastle. Simple stuff, no different from when he met Pigpen, or Five, or the late Charlotte Braun. But when Schultz submitted the finished strips to the syndicate, his editor, Larry Ruttman, was afraid of pushback from racist editors and wanted to cut Charlie Brown inviting Franklin for a sleepover. So Schultz responded, I mean, would he have actually done it? We have no way of knowing. Did he know that Ruttman was not going to take a chance on, and this is not hyperbole, the biggest cartoonist in the world walking because he wanted to censor him? I have no doubt. Pretty soon, Franklin was a semi-regular, established as living across town from Charlie Brown and the gang, and going to the same school as Peppermint Patty and Roy, and later Marcy. He was never a central character, but he was always in the mix. He often played straight man, like in October 1968, when he came to visit Charlie Brown for the first time and got introduced to the singular obsessions of the core characters. The Great Pumpkin was what broke him. Franklin's role, just as Glickman had envisioned, was simply to be a positive portrayal. At the time, just having that basic level of representation of a black character among the white characters without the world blowing up was a step forward.
One person can make a difference. It's a very little difference, not earth-shaking, but it's a difference.
And predictably, there was still pushback from racist readers. Like this unsigned letter that objected to Franklin appearing in school with white kids. In an interview, Schultz talked about another letter about the same subject from an editor in the South. He didn't even answer him. Unfortunately, being that straight man meant that Franklin didn't have what Schultz called the anxieties and obsessions of most of the characters. He didn't have a security blanket, or naturally curly hair, or change his name every day, which is why he was never a central character. Now, when it comes to Franklin in the cartoons, there's a particular moment that's inspired a lot of conversation. The moment happens in A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. You've probably seen that one. Break it down, Charlie Brown.
Peppermint Patty's invited herself, Marcy, and Franklin over for Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm not even going to be home. I'm going to be at my grandmother's.
It has a lot to enjoy. Like Snoopy wrestling with this sentient lawn chair.
It just seems now all he wants to do is...
A bunch of 8-year-olds in the back of a station wagon without a seatbelt in sight. Peppermint Patty at her peppermint pattiest.
I don't mind inviting myself over because I know you kind of like me, Chuck.
Well,
Apologies accepted, Chuck, old boy. Let's not play lovers' games, Chuck.
I agree.
You're holding my hand, Chuck. You sly dog.
She was played by a boy in this one. And it ends with a gleeful act of cannibalism. But the moment of controversy happens when everyone sits down for their dinner of toast and jelly beans. So at the end, we've got Linus. Over here, there's Sally and Charlie Brown, and Peppermint Patty and Snoopy. Marcy at the other end. And on the other side of the table, there's Franklin, and that's it. You could get 2 other kids over there. Marcy wouldn't have to have her back to the camera. Now, because I know there are guys out there already gearing up to play devil's advocate, it's true. We don't know who graphically blandished that scene or what their intent was. The whole thing is a bit careless, like how the number and positions of the chairs is not consistent. So you may argue that we can't say definitively whether he was being intentionally segregated. Couple of things. First, we can say that whatever the intention, it just looks bad. Second, let's take a look at his role in the rest of the special. He shows up at Peppermint Patty's after she's already invited herself and Marcy to dinner.
Hey, guess who just walked in over here? It's Franklin.
He looks sharp in his swipe-ed pants, but he doesn't say a word.
Hey, Chuck, this is gonna be the biggest bash of the year. See ya.
When they arrive for dinner, Peppermint Patty and Marcy say hi.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
Franklin does this. He doesn't even speak during the dinner scene. Not when his pretzel sticks and popcorn fly in. Not when the sentient lawn chair strikes again. Franklin has 2 lines in the whole special.
I just talked to Charlie Brown. He said dinner would be served a little earlier.
Great, we're ready.
You think I should wear a tie?
Nah, you can come as you are, Franklin. Old Chuck won't mind. Besides, he didn't say it was formal.
The actor, Robin Reed, passed away in February of this year. He had a few more acting roles, and later he became a stockbroker and eventually president and CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona, serving to advance black-owned businesses. Here's what he had to say about the part.
So to be part of something that is iconic and lasting, that was started because someone said, we need more equality. I think that's a great thing to be connected to, and I'm very proud of it.
I hope Robin Reed was among the voices singing here.
Over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go.
But the fact remains...
Hello? Grandma? Well, it's just Linus and a girl named Marcy and a girl named Peppermint Patty. She's a great baseball player. And a boy named Franklin? No, ma'am, they haven't eaten. As a matter of fact, they've let me know that in no uncertain terms. What? You mean it?
The trombone had more dialogue than Franklin. And it's not much better in some of the other cartoons. He first appeared in animation in Snoopy Come Home. He first spoke in There's No Time for Love, Charlie Brown.
I hate science projects. I can never think of anything different.
I'm going to do mine on the various kinds of metals in the earth and how each has affected the progress of mankind.
Maybe I'll do one on stomach aches.
He did have good moments.
Isn't this the sort of dog you'd like to have with you if you had some place to go at night? I sure wouldn't want to be seen in the daylight with him.
Usually when they took material directly from the strip.
This paper is blank. You turned in a blank test paper.
If a teacher doesn't like your looks, Franklin, there's nothing you can do.
Would you like to buy a Christmas wreath?
Do you know what you are doing? Don't you realize you're adding to the over-commercializing of Christmas?
Not till I sew one.
He's used a lot to fill out crowd scenes, alongside lower-tier characters like Roy and Shermie and Unflavored Patty. More than once, he's just there to be the one who breakdances and raps.
That's what it's all about. It's all about all the cars you ducking and shaking in your shoes. We're the team Invincible, and we're not gonna lose.
In It's Flash Beagle, Charlie Brown. And there's a lot to discuss when we get into that one. They didn't even bother to design a second black character. They just have two Franklins meeting up with Snoopy outside the club. And then the one he goes in with just parks at the edge of the dance floor and watches Snoopy dance. And there are so many where he doesn't speak at all. In YITS, the one where he gets a last name, he doesn't have any dialogue. That's why I say Franklin's moment is long overdue. Even just as a fan of the character, wanting to see the traits that make him appealing translated to animation. Even as the straight man, he's had plenty of great material, usually sharing stories about relatives. That was a regular thing in Peanuts. You wouldn't believe what they were saying about Aunt Marion. And sometimes you could tell that Franklin was speaking for Charles Schulz about something. Welcome Home Franklin has a scene, as previewed in the trailer, where that Thanksgiving moment is explicitly referenced and rectified.
Hey, Franklin, we saved you a seat over here.
That was a priority for the crew, including someone with a strong connection to the character.
I wanted Franklin to, on his own volition, engage with the Peanuts characters in a way that audiences have never seen him do before.
We finally see Franklin being himself and not kind of an outside extra character.
Armstrong remains grateful to Schulz for his early support. And like Schulz, he's worked to create opportunities for young cartoonists.
We don't know who the next brilliant artist is going to be.
The Armstrong Project is an opportunity for the Peanuts brand to help make a difference and change things in a positive way for young students who want careers in illustration and art, specifically at historically black colleges.
The Armstrong Project is, at its heart, something that allows dreams to come true.
So, at this point, it's time for me to stop talking and actually go watch the special. I'm going to do that as soon as this video drops, and I'll meet you all in the comments. Tell me your favorite Franklin moments from the comics and the cartoons, and whether you think the new special does him justice. And be sure to like and subscribe for more esoteric Peanuts-related content. like the enigma that is the little red-haired girl, the most obscure character in Peanuts, and most importantly, justice for Charlotte Braun.